So, this is the hidden lives behind your milk. Now, I've got bullet points here to keep me on track, and there's a lot of info in here. So, we might break it up into sections so that you don't have to sit down and watch it all in one go. So, I'm Kelly Malcolm, and I've grown up drinking raw milk straight from cows that I knew by name on our small family farm. We started with 100 acres and milked about 80 cows twice a day, and we milked all year round because that's just what we did. We calved our cows, they calved all year round so that we could take them to shows was our main reason. It wasn't about money or anything like that. It was about going to the shows, which was our family holidays. And it was a great childhood. It was a great upbringing, and to be so close with our cows and the calves and things like that. It was really beautiful. Um, and then like in those days, we used to take the calves off the cows, but the calves would be beside the cow yard. And then that changed when there was this whole thing about Johne's disease come in, and we had to separate the calves. The establishments told us that Johne's was caused by the calves being in contact with the cow's fecal matter. And I was like, this never made sense to me because I was like, well, they come out of the cow, they share her blood and all her fluids and things. And now you're saying that they're catching this deadly disease off their mums, and the disease didn't show up until like 10 years later, like until they were adults and things like that. Anyway, that never made sense to me. But so then we started separating, the calves had to be like way away from the cows. And which in my world, that sort of made the cows and calves pine for each other more. At least when we had them beside the cow yard, the cows could, still see their babies every morning and night. And some farmers kept the calves on the cows, for weeks, or every farm has done it different, but this is how we did it on our farm. Um, but yeah, in recent times, I've been, talking to people, city people about food, and well, even some country, even myself. Like um, I was gutting chickens the other day for consumption, and I learned that day how the big factories do it. And it's really horrible. And I was like, wow, I'd never even questioned it. And then, so, the way that they do it, like the chicken, they've got this little, I think it's like the bile duct, and if it bursts open, it goes bright green and makes the meat taste gross. And so the way the factories do it, that duct bursts open in the chook and turns the meat like a bit green. So they bleach it. So that's why the chickens in the supermarket look white. The meat's white. Like, they're not naturally white like that. It's bleached. So, it made me think, oh my God, like what else happens to our food? People are thinking that they're buying fresh broccoli in the supermarket, but it's like, what journey has that been on? Like, is that like a year old and it's been sprayed with chemicals before it was picked, and sprayed with chemicals while it's stored away, and then when it comes out into the daylight, it starts disintegrating, or rapidly disintegrating, like it probably would naturally. So yeah, it just got me thinking, and yes, and like I said, the city people, they just have no clue about anything, anything at all. They just have a picture, like I was talking to someone the other day, and they were asking me if we use machines to milk cows. It's like, holy crap. Like, we've come full circle nearly. Like, yeah, not only are we using machines now, like robots do it. So it's been an interesting journey for me, and I'm actually so I've been led to do this series for my own curiosity as much as anyone else, and even like for the dairy industry to compare the different ways of doing it. So, this isn't about blame or shame, it's about curiosity, connection, and truth. Like, yeah, I'm actually curious to see what I uncover through all this myself. So, yeah, so like I've touched on the small dairy farm, the family run dairy farm, where cows are all known by their name and cared for sort of, reasonably individually. And then yeah, there was this shift in around 2000, I think it was in 2000 that the up until 2000, we had a quota in Victoria, we had a quota system. So each year you had a certain amount of milk that you'd send off to the factory. You'd get paid premium for that, and you knew every year, okay, this is what my paycheck is. This is what I'm gonna get. And then any milk that you produced over above that quota, it then, the factory bought that off you for half the price or even a quarter of the price. So, it didn't serve you unless you had a different market for the extra milk. It didn't serve you to produce more than what your quota was. And so then in so in 2000 they took the quota system away, and then we started getting just paid for what we sent each day, which we thought that was going to be good. Well, some people didn't, some people didn't, some people knew that it wouldn't be. And then, so what happened then was then the factories started offering a higher incentive in winter so that people would milk all year round, because a lot of people back then would take the winter off because it's hard work milking in winter, and the cows walking down the muddy tracks and getting sore feet, and they don't want to walk, and calves being born around that time and all that. Like it's not fun farming in the mud and in the freezing cold. So a lot of farmers would take a month off, or a couple months off, and take their family away on holidays and have a break and all that stuff. And it was beautiful for the family unit and the mental health and your physical health. But once the factories started having higher milk prices in the winter, there was this incentive to milk through the winter to get that high milk price then. And like it still happens now, but yeah, it's quite a higher premium price through the winter. And so that changed our industry then, so the farmers are working all year round and milking all year round and trying to milk the majority of their cows through the winter, through the shittiest time of year to milk cows. But they're doing that to get the premium milk price. So now they don't have time off, and now they don't have family time, and now they don't have a break, and the cows don't have a break, and the laneways don't have a break, and the sheds don't have a break. Like the whole thing doesn't get a break anymore. So, it's really changed a lot. And, now the small family farm, they seem to, they just don't really exist anymore. They seem to have to put everyone's like driven for production, and I'm not sure that driving harder for more production, which equals more income, but I'm not sure that the profit margin at the end of the day or at the end of the year is any better. And also I question, is the quality of life any better? Because if the quality of life's not better and they're working harder, and everything's on the edge of a knife kind of thing. Like if something goes wrong, well, the chips fall, and it's like a domino effect. Like is everything's so maxed out, like stressed out, everything's pushed to the limit now that your quality of life's not better if you're pushed to the limit, and your cows and your machinery and your equipment and your plant and all that like your dairy and stuff are all stretched to the limit. It doesn't take much for something to go wrong, and then that affects a whole heap of things. Whereas back in the day, when people weren't so driven by the dollar, life was easier. And so I don't know. I don't know if um, because I'm not dairy farming at the moment, so I don't know if people actually have to go bigger to make ends meet, or if it's just a societal pressure, like, oh, there's this talk, go big or go home. You got to get bigger, you got to get bigger. Um, and so, if people hear that often enough, well, they do that. But is that really the truth? I'm not sure. Maybe we'll cover that in this series. So yeah, so there's all these kinds of different um, dairy farming ways. So there's that family dairy that I've talked about, and some people still do that. Some people milk sort of around, those smaller ones are around 80 to 150, maybe 250, 300. But those guys are dying out because they're trying to get the higher milk prices in winter, and they're not taking time out for themselves. And people don't want to milk cows anymore. People don't want to work hard like that anymore. So they're finding it hard to get people to give them a break and all that sort of stuff. So, um, but then there's like the next level of farmers, which are still family operated, but they're large scale. So, they might be 600 to 1,500 cows or something like that. And a lot of these guys are now building barns and putting their cows are in barns. So they, while they're milking, they never get off the concrete, which makes them lame. And but they walk kind of a bit funny and things like that. And they don't have to walk far, so all most of their energy is put into milk production. Um, and because there's so many of them, they now don't know all their names. It's more of a production line, it's more of a factory setting. Um, People say, oh, wow, that cow's just a milk machine, and I know that they, by saying that, they're meaning like she gives a lot of milk, but, they're actually saying she's a machine, like they're kind of, oh, what's the word? Objectifying her by saying, just sort of calling her a machine. So, and then there's no emotional attachment to it, to her. And so this operation is pretty full on. Like yeah, I don't, and same, like it's, most of these blokes have 10 or 15 or 20 staff. So it's great for, um, employment. And a lot of them are not local employment because Aussies don't want to work like that anymore. So a lot of these guys are from overseas, like from Africa or from Asia, Thailand, and things like that. And so yeah, it's creating more opportunity for people like those employees get to make good money and send it home to their families and things like that. So there's benefits, fors and against for everything. And these farms, so does it give the owners a better quality of life? I'm not sure. You, I talked to one the other day, and he says that he doesn't actually have to physically work as hard anymore because he went from 600 to 1,100 cows, and that was the game changer that had him be able to employ enough staff that and enough managers and things that they take care of it. And so he just comes in and kind of oversees it and kind of works when he wants to, like physically works when he wants to. So, maybe his quality of life is better. Uh, is the cow's quality of life better? I don't know. Maybe. Like if you went to his place, you'd see them all, they're pretty cruisy. Like it's quiet and it's calm and they're out of the rain and they're out of the heat and but yeah, they're on the concrete and there's sort of no personal touch anymore. like the small family farm, they scratch their cows and they rub them and they chat to them and hang out with them a bit. Whereas these guys are more, it's a production line, they've got to keep them moving. And these cows are getting milked 3 times a day. And some have robots, and those cows take themselves to the robots. So they might get milked 5 times a day. They do, so that in itself is better in one way because they're not bursting with milk each milking if they're only being milked twice a day, but they're also producing more milk because they don't, they don't have full udders, so they produce more milk. So is that better for them? I don't know, like, come to your own conclusions on that. The more milk they produce, the more it sucks out of their body, the harder they're working. Um, the more often they get milked, the more milk they produce, but the more often they're milked, the less pressure on their udder. So, and the more often they're milked, the more walking they have to do. So who knows? Like, yeah, there's fors and against for all of it, like I say. And then you've got the big factory industrial farms. They can milk, those ones I probably consider getting up, into the 2,000 cows and more. Some farms, there's 1 or 2 farms in Australia currently milking 10,000, around 10,000 cows. And those farms, they, when the calf is born, it's taken away immediately. Like they don't even let the cow lick the calf. They try and trick the cow into thinking that she hasn't even had a baby. And the calf doesn't get licked by the mum or anything. So I'm not sure. I like that's not helpful for the cow or the calf because the cow needs to lick the calf to get the calf going, and the cow needs to lick the calf to get her milk going and to get her natural body rhythms going and to, help her uterus start contracting and to help her let down her milk for her baby and to to let go of the afterbirth and all these things, that don't happen as naturally if if you're intervening and interfering with it. And the calf's microbiome gets going because it gets up and sucks off mum, and the cow's microbiome, gets kicks into gear as well because she's licking the calf. And there's so many benefits to letting the cow and calf be together. But yeah, these big factory farms, yeah, the cows really just are, they're a machine, and there's not much love going around for the cows because it's all about the milk and the dollars. Um, so yeah, and I don't know if this shift has happened, maybe it's a growing population, so more demand for milk. But yeah, I think it's more about profit margins, and some people are taking control of their own, like those big factory farms that, they have their own milk factories, so they can price the milk the way they want rather than being subjected to what the factory is going to pay you or whatever. So yeah, there's lots of different things, and the big one is that the government came in and stopped, made it illegal to sell raw milk out of your farm gate. So that stop that's it really needs to just people just really need to sell their own milk. Then they've got control of their own product. But a lot of people, they send them off to the factories, and the fact because they produce so much milk and it goes into cheese and things. But so I get that there has to be a certain level of milk that goes into factories to be made into cheese. But um, you know, back back in the good old days when people trusted their local farmer, and before people had to sue, oh, I got sick from your milk and now I'm going to sue you. Before all that crap came in, um, yeah, the farmers had a lot more say in where their product went and what they did with it and what they sold it for. And that's how it should be, farm gate sales. So, if you've got a farmer close to you, that, they might. I know there's a farmer in New Zealand and he's made these on-farm little milk factories. And so you can come and buy pasteurized milk um, at your local farm. So that's a great idea while the legal requirement is to sell your milk pasteurized. So what the pasteurization process does is it kills all the bacteria in the milk. So bacteria has been made to be a bad guy when it's actually not. Yeah, I know. I know. It's quite something to behold. I know that we've really been brainwashed that bacteria is bad, but it's not. It's not at all. The bacteria is there because it's cleaning up a mess that's been there. It's not the cause of the illness or the issue. It's always present when someone is sick or has an infection because it's there cleaning up. The infection's already been, and the bacteria are there cleaning the shit away. So they're not causing the illness or the inflammation or the mastitis or whatever. It's there cleaning it up. But, if we all are led to believe that bacteria is the bad guy, well, then we're all scared of catching some virus or something in the air and scared of the flu or whatever. So, you go and get your jabs. So there's a whole nother industry that comes about by having people scared of bacteria or viruses or whatever, thinking that, you know, there's these boogeymans floating around in the air or, that we can get it from each other. We can't get sick from each other. And it's the same with cows. They don't get sick from each other. They don't, if you milk a mastitis cow and then milk the next cow with the same machine without washing it, she's not going to get mastitis. But we're led to believe that because then we do all these other things that um, make our lives a lot harder and, micromanaging things. But for the industries, there's a lot more money to be made out of things because they can sell a whole lot more things for this micromanagement stuff. So, yeah, so it needs to go back to drinking raw milk straight from the cow because that milk is so delightful and creamy and filling. We don't even need to drink as much when we drink it raw because it's filling. And I'll put some bottles, I'll get some pictures of some store milk and some raw milk and the raw milk will be from cows who are milked once a day and they have the calves left on them. And that milk is just so super creamy and it's got that creamy color to it. Whereas the milk that comes out of these factory farms is white. And why is it white? Because it hasn't got much goodness left in it. Those cows are, from my observations, those cows, because they're getting milked, they're pushed so hard that they're having the goodness sucked out of them. That they're not, I won't say they're having their goodness sucked out of them. Because a lot of farmers do um feed their cows minerals and vitamins and things like that. But what it does is it's just the cow's not naturally letting down her um, like putting her heart and soul into the milk, I suppose, uh, like she does if she still has her calf with her. So she puts it all, when she's got her calf with her, she puts all her milk into it, all her goodness into it. So it's like really rich and nourishing and thick and creamy. Whereas a cow that hasn't got her calf on her and is getting milked twice a day, 3 times a day, 4 or 5 times a day, producing 60, 70 litres, 80 litres a day, she doesn't have all that creaminess and she's not putting all her minerals and vitamins and creaminess into it. And then it goes to the factory and then it gets heated, homogenized, and all the fat broken up and then gets heated and all the goodness is killed. So, that's why in the store it's like white milk and people are used to now seeing white milk. And it's not natural. It's not full of juicy goodness. It's The natural milk is beautiful and creamy and thick and yummy. So, yeah, so there's all these kinds of things that we need to consider as well. And when you drink that milk, like the raw milk, it's satisfying. It's really like it's like drinking silky velvet or something, or yeah, it's really lovely. So, this is where the disconnect is. We're so disconnected that we don't even know what questions to ask. We don't even ask questions, but if we were going to ask questions, we probably wouldn't know what to ask anyway, because we just got no idea. Like I said, the guy I was talking to the other day, he thought we still milked cows by hand. So he's got no clue about how it happens. And so, why does this all matter? It matters because if we're going to come home to ourselves, and if we are all connected and we're all one, which we are, and when I say we are all one, I mean all living beings. So all the animals and all, we're all connected. Energetically, we're all connected. So, if we're treating our animals poorly, that's a reflection of what we think of ourselves. So, why are we doing that? Is it our self-worth? Is it societal pressure? Is it family pressure? Is it driven by money? Um, we need to start making conscious choices. And so I'm not saying a for or against in any of this. I'm just saying through my observations what the different styles of farming are, and what what milk tastes, what milk is more fulfilling and nourishing for me. And so, yeah, and when we make connection to our food and where it comes from and the farmers behind where the milk comes from and the cheese comes from, and the opportunities that farming creates for people and community, and the there's so much in it all that, yeah, I'm inviting you to really think about where your food came from. When did you last think about, oh, where's my food come from? And this is the first in a series of, exploring where eggs, meat, and veggies and oils and all the things that we've stopped seeing clearly. Like we're exploring where they all come from. Um, yeah, all right. Get curious, ask questions, visit a farm if you can, reconnect, even just a little. Leave messages here. Ask any questions you want, anything you want to know more about milk and cows, let me know. And if it sparks something in you, subscribe, share, and come with me as we uncover the stories behind our food. I really would love to hear from you, and I'd love to see you on the next video.